The morning of January 15, 1919 began like any other in Boston's bustling North End. It was an oddly warm winter day, the temperature climbing into the 40s after weeks of bitter cold. The cobblestone streets glistened under the thin winter sun, and the salty tank of the harbor mingled with the faint, sweet scent of molasses. That smell came from a massive steel storage tank looming over Commercial Street, a structure locals had lived beside for years. This tank, built by the Purity Distilling Company, was enormous. It stood over 50 feet tall, 90 feet across, and held 2.3 million gallons of thick, dark molasses. For years, residents complained about its leaks, sticky streams of syrup running down its riveted sides. Children would collect it in tin pails to take home, not knowing the danger that tower held above them. Some even claimed they could hear the groan of the metal when the wind was right. But the tank was a rushed job from the start. It had been constructed hastily in 1915 without proper engineering oversight. The steel was thinner than safety standards recommended, and the seams were poorly riveted. To make matters worse, the company had painted it brown to disguise the leaks. It was a disaster waiting to happen. By late morning on January 15th, the air was unusually warm, and the molasses inside had begun to expand. The previous day, a fresh shipment of warm molasses from the Caribbean had been pumped in, raising the internal pressure even higher. Inside the tank, steel plates strained under the weight of the sweet, viscous mass. No one knew that every second brought it closer to catastrophe. At 12:40 p.m., it began. A sharp metallic crack split the air, so loud that some thought it was machine gun fire. Witnesses turned toward the tank just in time to see the steel wall burst open. What came next was unlike anything Boston had ever seen. A wall of molasses, 25 feet high at its peak, erupted from the ruptured tank. It moved at 35 miles per hour, faster than a man could run. The force was unimaginable, carrying the weight of millions of gallons in its dark, glistening mass. It smashed into buildings, tearing them from their foundations. The air filled with a deafening roar, punctuated by the splintering of wood and the crash of collapsing walls. Horses pulling wagons were swallowed instantly, their terrified screams muffled in the syrup. Children playing in the street were swept away before they could react. Men working nearby tried to run, but their legs became trapped in the sticky flood. The molasses was warm from fermentation, clinging to everything it touched. It wrapped around people like a living thing, pulling them down with terrible strength. Rescue efforts began within minutes, but the syrup fought back. Firefighters, police officers, and volunteers waded into the brown sea, each step a battle against suction that could pull the boots from their feet. Some sank waist-deep, unable to move without help. The thick, clinging mess made it almost impossible to find survivors. The cries for help were muffled, sometimes fading before rescuers could reach them. In total, 21 people were killed. Some drowned, others suffocated, and some were crushed by debris hurled by the wave. Over 150 were injured, many suffering broken bones and deep lacerations from the splintered wreckage. The disaster also destroyed buildings, twisted rail tracks, and smashed freight cars like toys. The Boston Elevated Railway trestle bent under the weight of the molasses that slammed against it. Cleanup was a nightmare. Firefighters used salt water from the harbor to wash the streets, but the molasses stuck to everything: cobblestones, walls, and even the skin of those helping. For weeks, cleanup crews scraped and shoveled, their clothes ruined by the sticky residue. Molasses spread across the harbor waters, staining them brown. Ships reported the sweet smell far out at sea. Even months later, the scent lingered. Local stories claimed that on hot summer days, you could still smell molasses in the North End. And for decades, people swore the syrup had seeped into the very stones of Boston. The aftermath led to a landmark court case. The investigation revealed that the Purity Distilling Company had ignored warning signs and built the tank with substandard materials. The steel was too thin, the rivets poorly installed, and there had been no formal engineering tests before use. In the end, the company was found liable and paid $600,000 in damages, about $9 million today. The Great Molasses Flood became a strange, haunting chapter in American history. It proved that negligence could be just as deadly as any natural disaster. And in Boston's North End, it left behind not only the memory of destruction, but the ghostly echo of that day when a sweet smell turned deadly. Like and subscribe so you don't miss even more interesting historical facts.